If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. We've got an absolutely amazing podcast for you. As joining me in segment number 2, we're going to have on one of our good friends as we chat some baseball with Danny Vietti of CBS Sports and the Wake Rake Podcast. We're going to chatter with him about what we've all seen in the NL West thus far this season, how strong it is, some of the surprises that we've seen this season, some of the positives and the negatives. We're also going to be talking about some of these small market teams and how they're starting to fight, as he's going to turn the tables on me and ask a few questions about the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything, it is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years 366. You earn cashback rewards when you utilize Edge Boost. When you go to edgeboost.bet, type in the promo code of Greg. That gives you a $1 for $1 match on your first $25 deposit. That is promo code Greg over at edgeboost.bet. And now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
A rare under out there in Miami, as 70% of their home games since the beginning of the 2024 season have gone over the total. 4-3, the Marlins, they're able to take it to the Cincinnati Reds. Nick Martinez gives up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Graham Ashcraft, well, he was a load of Ashcraft, giving up 2 runs, one of which was earned in his inning work. Tony Santana and Scott Barlow both get a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Neo Volley Marte, the Marte Parte goes deep off of Edward Cabrera for his second home run of the campaign. For Cabrera, 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, and then the bullpen went to work. Anthony Bender, Anthony Veziano, Lake Bakar, and Kelvin Fauché all able to end scoreless innings. The night wraps up in Sacramento. The home games in Sacramento now being 9-3 to the over thus far this season. The Rangers, who have been struggling on offense, they get an 8-5 win. Patrick Corbin, an actually solid performance here. He does give up 2 home runs, but 2 solo home runs allowed over the course of his 5 innings as Miguel Andujar took him deep, second home run of the campaign, and then you're able to get home run number 3 off the bat of Lawrence Butler. Brent Rooker a little bit later on off of Mr. Webb, his 7th home run season, and you also had Luis Urias. He got his second home run of the campaign as both of those home runs come off of Jacob Webb. He does give up 2 solo home runs in his 2 innings of work, so the Ace had 5 runs in this game, 4 solo home runs. Obi Milner, he gives up a run in an inning himself, but Sean Armstrong, Robert Garcia combined for a scoreless inning, and Luke Jackson a scoreless inning of his own as Waldo Vito. He had a rough go of it. 8 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, including 4 bombs. Marcus Semien, second home run of the campaign. Jake Berger, his 3rd home run of the campaign. Josh Smith, his 2nd, and you had Wyatt Langford, fresh off the injury list, get his 5th. From there, TJ McFarland, Jose Leclerc combined for a scoreless inning. You had a scoreless inning of Tyler Ferguson and Jacob Lopez. He's able to end 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the LA Angels, they drop back to 500 as the Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank to a 9-3 win. For the Buccos, Bailey Falter, he did somewhat live up to his aim. 3 runs allowed in 4 innings as he gives up a home run to Taylor Ward, his 6th of the campaign, but bullpen from there was rock solid. You had Justin Lawrence, Dennis Santana combined for a scoreless inning. David Benner, Ryan Barucki, they both give a scoreless inning apiece. Chase Sugar, 2 scoreless innings from him. And Andrew McCutcheon, second home run on the campaign. That comes off of Mr. Jose Soriano, who gives up 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings. From there, you had 1 run given up in 1 2/3 innings by Garrett McDaniels. 2 scoreless innings out of Michael Darrell Hicks and Brocken Rolberg. He gives a scoreless inning before Ian Anderson. He gives up a 3 spot in his inning of work. The Milwaukee Brewers take it to the San Francisco Giants. This by a count of 11-3. And for the San Francisco Giants, by the way, they have been a very good over team thus far this season, as For the Giants, they are up to now 15 overs, 8 unders, and a push, and Jose Quintana continues to be rock solid. For the Brewers, 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. From there, Grant Anderson gives up a run in an inning. Brian Hudson, a run in an inning. Yoel Payamps, he goes for a scoreless inning despite giving up 3 hits along the way. And for the Brewers, pair of bombs. Jake Bauers gets the second home run of the campaign off of Lou Trevino, and Lou Trevino also gives one up to Christian Yelich, his 5th home run of the season. For Jordan Hicks, gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned over the course of his 5 innings. And Trevino, he gives up 5 runs, including those 2 bombs in 2/3 of an inning. Spencer Bivens, he's able to go for 2 1/3 innings scoreless, and he did get a scoreless inning in this one in the 9th inning from Christian Cross. That was the backup infielder, so yay verily there, and yay verily to a high-scoring shootout out there in Chicago. The Cubs, they get the job done 11-10 the final in this one, as both starting pitchers had themselves a night. Dustin May manages to fill 5 innings. He gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned, including a homer, as he gave up a 5 spot in the first inning before settling down, and Shota Imanaga, he gives up 5 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 2/3 innings, as he allowed a trio of bombs. Going deep for the LA Dodgers, Will Smith gets jiggy with a 3rd home run of the campaign. Tommy Edman, his 8th home run of the season, and then you had Andy Pages get his 3rd home run of the season for the Cubs, going deep off of the starter in Dustin May. Pete Crow Armstrong, 4th home run of the season. Then Tanner Scott in the 9th inning, he gives up a home run to tie it to Miguel Amaya, 2nd home run of the campaign, and Kyle Tucker, his 7th home run of the season, as the Cubs, they entered into the 9th inning down by a run, and my guy hits that home run, and then they were able to get the job done in the 10th inning, as the bullpen for the Cubs pretty rock solid after Brad Keller was not great. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, given up in a 3rd of an inning, but Ethan Roberts has scoreless inning, Porter Hoge has scoreless inning, and you had 2 scoreless innings out of Gavin Hollowell. And then for the LA Dodgers, you did have the bullpen implode in this one. Tanner Scott gives up a home run in the 9th inning, lone run that he did give up. Alex Vesia, 2 runs given up in 2/3 of an inning, including a bomb. You had Luis Garcia, Anthony Banda, both on the scoreless inning. Kirby Yates and out of the bullpen, and then in the 10th inning, Noah Davis give up the winning RBI single to Ian Happ, as you did have the Houston Astros play a little bit more of an underwhelming game. 5-1, they're able to take it to the Toronto Blue Jays, as for the Jays, not a lot going on offense. As for Houston, Ronald Blanco was on it, giving up 1 solo run in 6 2/3 innings, as it was home run number 1 this season for Nathan Lukes. Meanwhile, for Toronto, Chris Bassett was taking hook, line, and sinker for 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Brandon Little, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Mason Fluharty was able to end his scoreless inning. Yariel Rodriguez gives up a home run in his inning work. Going deep for Houston, Isaac Paredes, 4th home run season, and for the Astros bullpen, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader, both on the scoreless inning, and Brian King, he was the king of giving you an out of the bullpen scoreless. For the San Diego Padres, they were the kings of being able to pitch a shutout. 2-0, they take it to the Detroit Tigers, as Nick Pivetta, very good 7 scoreless innings in this one. Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, both on his scoreless inning, and Elias Diaz, 1st home run of the season, that comes off of Captain Jack Flaherty, who gives up that home run. 2 runs a total over the course of 6 innings. That came in the 2nd inning, and that'd be the lone form of scoring in this one, as you had 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless from Bailey Horn, 5 outs from Chase Lee, but for the Detroit Tigers, just 3 total hits in this one. For the Cleveland Guardians, they take it to the New York Yankees by a count of 3-2. Will Warren, not a bad start in this one. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, but then Mike Leiter Jr. lighters this game up, giving up a run in his 2/3 of an inning of work. Tim Hill, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Luke Weaver, a scoreless inning, and Ben Rice in the 1st inning goes deep off of Tanner Bybee, 6th home run of the season, and what's been a rough year for Tanner Bybee, a little bit better in this one. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Tim Aaron, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, they go to work. They all lend a scoreless inning to be able to get that one to the window. For the Baltimore Orioles, they do not get to the window. They get shut out by the Washington Nationals, 7-0 the final. As for Baltimore, Dean Kramer does give up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned in 5 1/3 innings, including a pair of homers, as you had Nathaniel Lowe be able to get low for his 4th home run of the season, and Dylan Cruz starting to pick it up. He's able to get his 3rd home run of the season. Matt Bowman from there, a run allowed in 1 2/3 innings. Keegan Aiken, a scoreless inning, and for Washington, Mitchell Parker gives up just 1 hit in 8 scoreless innings. Colin Pouchet is able to give you an out of the bullpen before Cole Henry gets the final 2 outs to be able to polish this game off. The St. Louis Cardinals polish off the Atlanta Braves, this by a count of 10-4, as for the Braves, now 9-14 on the season, after looked like they were getting things righted, as they had to have Mr. Scott Blewett get the start in this one, as this was a true bullpen game. He gives up 2 runs over the course of his 3 innings, including a home run to Lars Nootbaar, his 4th home run of the season. From there, Aaron Bummer, 2 scoreless innings. Dylan Lee, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Rafael Montero was more like Rafael Montero Bowl, giving up 2 runs at a 1/3 of an inning. Añel de los Santos gives up 3 runs at an inning. 3 runs given up in an inning by Nathan Wiles as well. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, they were wiling out to Andre 3000 Palante, giving up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of homers. Matt Olson, 4th home run season. Sean Murphy, his 6th, but from there, the bullpen did their part. Steven Matz, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Kyle Leahy, Ryan Helsley, they both lend a scoreless inning. Be able to lend plenty of scoreless innings. How about the Minnesota Twins? 4-2, they take down the Chicago White Sox. As for the Southsiders, Davis Martin, he was done wrong in this one. 2 unearned runs given up in 5 innings as Lennon Sosa and the catcher in Kyoto both had an error behind him. From there, Mike Vassell, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 3 innings, including a home run. Going deep for Minnesota, Trevor Larnach, second home run of the season, and Bailey Ober, solid start. He gives up 1 run in 6 innings. He did have Yohan Duran give up a run in the 9th inning, but still cash that run line on the Twins. Meanwhile, Griffin Jacks, Louis Varland, they both lend a scoreless inning for the Kansas City Royals. They had this thing go to extra innings when they didn't need it to, but they do get the job done in 11. 4-3 the final is for the Colorado Rockies. They were down 2-0 in the 9th inning with the man on first, and then apparently Carlos Aceves just decided to walk 3 guys. He gives up 3 runs in his inning, spoiling a Chris with a K Bubich start in which he went 7 scoreless innings. But Lucas Erceg, John Schreiber, Daniel Lynch, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for Kansas City, you did have a home run in this one, a rarity for them, as Drew Waters gets his first home run of the campaign for the Rockies. Ryan Feldner gave that one up, gave up a solo home run over the course of 7 innings. From there, you did have Jaden Hill give up a run in an inning. You had a run in an inning given up by Seth Halverson, and then the unearned run in the 11th inning was given up by Tyler Kinley. So the Royals, they do find a way to persevere and get the job done, and finding a way to be able to get the job done and persevering. How about the Arizona Diamondbacks? 5-1. They're able to take it to the Tampa Bay Rays. By the way, the Rockies with that under now 7 overs, 14 unders and a push. Highest under rate with the Mets, who have 16 unders and 8 overs thus far this season. So they have that moniker. But for the Rays, they do fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks 5-1. As Zach Little does come up very little. 3 runs allowed in 6 innings, including a pair of homers, as Pavin Smith gets his 4th home run of the campaign. And it was home run number 3 for Tim Tewa for Arizona. Brandon Pfaadt, he battled his way to 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Ryan Thompson, Jalen Beeks both lend a scoreless inning, and then Juan Murillo was able to give you a scoreless inning as well for the Tampa Bay Rays. Some long relief from Mason Englert, who does give up 2 runs over the course of his 2 innings of work. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they fall to the New York Metropolitans by a count of 5-1 as Christopher Sanchez only lasts 2 innings in this one, giving up 2 runs. From there, the bullpen wasn't awful. Joe Ross, 3 scoreless innings. Jordan Romano, a scoreless inning. Tanner Banks, so he gives up a run in 2/3 inning. Orion Kirkering starting to act up a little bit, gives up 2 runs in a 1/3 of an inning. Carlos Hernandez, he lends a scoreless inning. And for the Mets, Griffin Canning, well, he was not canned hard in this one. One run allowed in 5 innings. Oscar Barzobin, AJ Minter, Jose Buto, Ryan Stanek, they all lend a scoreless inning. As for Christopher Sanchez, very curious, getting pulled in the 2nd inning. So have to see if there's going to be anything wrong with him moving forward. But what has been going right for you is if you've been betting on money line favorites thus far this season, as in the last 7 days, Major League Baseball favorites hitting at 61% on the money line, 56 and 36. Meanwhile, the under is hitting at about 54.7% over the last 7 days, 47 unders to 39 overs. And if you're looking at the entirety of the baseball season, favorites are hitting at 60.7%, 212 and 137 on the money line. Meanwhile, we have seen 169 unders, 161 overs, so a rate of a little bit over 51% there. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on the card on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at what we're going to be getting on Wednesday, some of these surprise teams, and so much more with our good friend Danny Vietti. Also going to be talking a lot about the NOS with him next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Decent Family Podcast.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He does such great work over at CBS Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's done a tremendous job of being able to gauge all that we've seen in terms of lackiness this season. He's based out there in the great state of California, so he's been able to keep it on lockdown with regards to the AL West, the NL West, and so much more. And he also does a Wake Rake Podcast. He does that with Will Middlebrooks, a man that won a World Series, but more importantly on this podcast, since I'm from the great state of Wisconsin, is a former Milwaukee Brewer as well. So yay, verily there. You're able to follow Danny on Twitter/X at his first and last name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti. And Danny, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. I know you normally kind of lead the way with the questions, but, you know, as a Brewers fan, I got to ask, 12-10 start? liking the way it's going so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like with the Milwaukee Brewers, a lot of people were just completely out on them after that first series against the New York Yankees, where everyone was talking about the torpedo bats and everything like that, and everyone was thinking, oh no, the sky is falling and things of that nature. But for the Milwaukee Brewers, they've done a good job of being able to mix and match. And I want to get your thoughts as to what you've seen with the Brewers, because it just feels like this team every single year, they don't necessarily have those splash guys. They don't necessarily have that one guy since the year that Christian Yelich won MVP, where you have a dominant player, but it always feels like it's just a whole is greater than the sum of its parts approach, and they're taking that once again this year.
Yeah, I mean, one year it's Prince Fielder and Ryan Braun, the next it's Yelich, the next it's Sal Frelick, and now they got Churio, who's 22 years old, I think, at this point. Bryce Terang, so got Hoskins, Vlad Contreras. I mean, it is pretty remarkable, the fact that the Brewers have been able to sustain this much success for the past decade. Not only when you the historically losing franchise that it's been before this era, but just the fact that they are the market that they are. They don't have a payroll that exceeds rarely ever over $100 million, just about $150 million. They're kind of the small market team of the National League Central, if you will, because if you compare it to the other teams like St. Louis, Pittsburgh, in my mind, those are owners that are not willing to spend. I don't consider either of those markets so-called small markets. Milwaukee, when you consider, it's not really baseball. It's an indoor stadium because of the weather. There's not a whole lot of homegrown talent in the state of Wisconsin when it comes to baseball, just frankly because of the weather. And for them to be able to have sustained the success for this long, when you consider the history, it truly is phenomenal how well they've.
I agree with you, and this has been a Brewers team that has been able to just find a way in general. And how do you take a look at more of the middle tier in baseball this season? Because a lot was made out of the LA Dodgers and the fact that they are once again the Death Star in all of baseball, but we've seen them have a few slip-ups. We've seen the New York Yankees have some slip-ups. The San Diego Padres have really been able to rise up this season as well. I do think that's intriguing, what we've seen out of more of those mid-tier teams like the Milwaukee Brewers, teams out there in like the AL Central with the Detroit Tigers, because it feels like there are some teams that have just done a good job of, for lack of a better term, getting it right in terms of their farm system and bringing up some of their young pieces that are making big contributions right now.
162 games, baby. It is a marathon, not a sprint. You look at any past World Series champion, no matter what year you look at, there was probably some stretch at some point in the season where everyone thought that the roof was going to cave in and everything was on fire, and the whole "this is fine, the room's on fire" gif was being used. Look at last year, even the Dodgers probably had a stretch where they went 2-8, and Dodger fans were up in arms. And in fact, I very much remember, I think it was August, when the injuries started racking up. Yamamoto was on the IL. Tyler Glasnow went down with injury. Kershaw was injured. And it was like, man, we're racking up all these wins, but we're injured. Every single World Series team is going to have a bad stretch across a 162-game season. So, yeah, you look at some of these middle tier teams, some of the better teams. I mean, Mets 15-7, Dodgers and Padres 16 wins. The Cubs top the Central at 14-10. Let's say hypothetically we look down the road and these teams are still at the top of their division at the end of the season. I guarantee you each of them are going to be going through some rough stretches at some point. It's a marathon. It's all about just staying healthy. And I do think, to your point, depth is huge across a 162-game season. That's why the Dodgers have been able to sustain so much success for this long, is because of their farm system. Because when they have guys like Max Muncy go down, they have guys like Mookie Betts go down with a fractured hand last season, they're able to bring up guys from the farm system. And maybe they can't fill the void exactly like a Mookie Betts would, but they're at least able to mix and match, and they're able to sustain some success until they get their guys back. So I think that's really the key to a 162-game season, is just having depth, not only on your 40-man roster, but also across your minor leagues.
Yep, I think so as well. And when you're able to build that depth, and a lot of people want to talk about the money that the LA Dodgers spend, but they've always got guys waiting in the minor leagues to be able to come up, to be able to fill some of the voids when they need a number like 7 or 8 hitter, when they need a number 5 starter, something like that. They've always got those guys who are able to get the job done. I think that is so massive as well. So, well said by Danny Vietti, who does great work over at CBS Sports along with the Wake Rake Podcast, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And Danny, how about if we do talk about the NL West? Because, well, I don't think the Colorado Rockies are going to win the division. I know that it's 162 games. I know that it's a long season. season, but I'm going to go out here on a limb and I'm going to eliminate the Colorado Rockies from winning the division. But outside the Colorado Rockies, all these teams are looking rock solid. For the San Francisco Giants, it's a little bit more teeter-totter-ish, but they've been able to have a nice start to the season. Diamondbacks offense is once again locked and loaded. We saw that against the Chicago Cubs a few days ago, where there was a combined 16 runs in that eighth inning, which was still wild. But the Padres have been rock solid. The LA Dodgers are still the LA Dodgers. Just how do you take a look at this West, where, again, other than the Colorado Rockies, you've got four of the better teams out there in all of baseball?
No, you really do. A season ago, you can make the argument that the two best teams in the National League were the Dodgers and Padres. Unfortunately, those two teams met before they could get to the NLCS, and it was the Dodgers that came back from a 3-2 deficit, I think it was, and they ended up ousting the Padres from the playoffs. But then you look behind there, and you got the Giants, who they add Willie Adames, they add Justin Verlander. The rotation is healthy with Robbie Ray, Logan Webb, Matt Chapman. They're kind of placing this, face of the franchise label on Matt Chapman, and they've basically given him the keys to be the face of the franchise, and he is off to a phenomenal start here in 2025. He's always been able to do it with the glove. It's really just been the consistency of the bat with Chappie. And this year so far, he's been able to show it with both power and getting on base on a consistent clip. So San Francisco is right there. And I say all that with haven't even gotten to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who were in the World Series 2 years ago. They just barely missed the playoffs a year ago. It came down to game 162. That's how close it got last year for Arizona. And they were able to do that with Corbin Carroll hitting 230 a year ago. Well, all of a sudden this year, Corbin Carroll in his new batting stance, very Ohtani-esque, now has his batting average up over 330. And now he's off to a scorching hot start. And they've also added guys like Josh Naylor, who has been off to a scorching hot start. Their rotation is still stout. Their bullpen can get a little shaky at times, but the National League West, it's going to be a gauntlet all year long, with the exception of the Rockies. To kind of put it into perspective, I think it was the first 15 games of the season the Rockies had played. 15 total games played. They were already 10 and a half games back of first place in that division. That's not only the uncompetitiveness of the Rockies, it just shows how competitive those top four teams are.
And maybe I'm a little bit fast in saying this. Could the Colorado Rockies have sort of the season that we saw last year for the Chicago White Sox, where they're vying for like 115 to 120 losses? Because I look at the roster right now for the Colorado Rockies, and I don't see where wins are really going to be coming from for this team, albeit the elevation and the home field advantage is about as good as you're going to get in all of baseball, because it's hard to acclimate for those games. But man, it looks like it's going to be a rough season for these guys.
Yeah, 190 win percentage so far for Colorado. I actually do have some empathy for Colorado, though. Like, a lot of people look at that ownership and no, it's not an A-plus ownership. They're not one of the top spenders in baseball. They never have been. And they sometimes can cry poor, kind of like the A's did in Oakland, kind of like the Pittsburgh Pirates do at times. So they're not an A-plus ownership. But I will say this about Colorado. They did extend Nolan Arenado before they traded him. They did go out and sign Chris Bryant. They have extended some of their players like Herman Marquez, Kyle Freeland, extended Ezekiel Tovar. Like, they have at least put some effort into investing into a roster. And unfortunately, the signing of Chris Bryant just completely handcuffed this franchise. Yeah. So I do feel bad for Colorado, because I root for teams that do the best with what they can financially and just roster flexibility wise. Like, I root for Kansas City, for example, because you look at their profit on a year-to-year basis, they have one of the lowest revenues in baseball, but they still try and make an effort with free agents. They still try and make an effort with investing into a roster. I think Colorado somewhat does that, but unfortunately that contract with Chris Bryant, it has made things really tough moving forward.
Yeah, and I know that there has always been the question mark of what's the worst contract in all of baseball, because Chris Davis back in the day, he was certainly up there. I still remember Steven Strasburg after they won the World Series. It was great that they won the World Series, but after that, that was just relatively rough. Would you say that the Chris Bryant contract right now is the worst in all of baseball? Because I just can't think of another one that's worse.
That and Anthony Rendon, those two guys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Can't forget about that one.
But it's so strange, because those two guys are very, very similar careers. If you think about it, like Chris Bryant, MVP candidate, won a World Series with the Cubs in 2016, and then he ended up signing with the Colorado Rockies and just completely fell flat, like completely fell off planet Earth. Anthony Rendon, similarly, injuries racked up after winning a World Series in 2019. It hasn't been on the field after signing this big old contract with the Angels. Both guys that moved west. It's strange. And in the last 2-3 seasons for each of those guys, I mean, these were not just all-stars. These two guys, Bryant and Rendon, they were MVP candidates. These guys were vouching for $250, $300 million contracts at one point. They're one of the best probably, you could make the argument, probably top 10 players in Major League Baseball for each of these guys. It's amazing how humbling this game can be. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Those guys have just fallen off the face of planet Earth, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to recoup any of that ability moving forward, as we do have joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, our good friend Danny Vietti over at CBS Sports. And how about if we talk about the American League West as well, because we talk about Anthony Rendon and that bad contract, but the LA Angels not off to a terrible start. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to make the playoffs or anything like that, but you know what? It could be worse for them right now, and I find that entire American League West to be so intriguing because the Mariners, they obviously can't hit at home. I think that you can tell their ballpark factor by the way that they've been able to hit away from home thus far this season. The Athletics have been able to do a pretty solid job thus far this season, but a little bit up and down for them, but you've got some nice reason for optimism there. And then you've got the Texas Rangers, who are pitching really, really well, but have no offense whatsoever right now. Just what do you make out of that American League West? Because I think that that's going to be one of the more intriguing races in all of baseball.
No, I agree. And to add to your point about Texas pitching well, not being able to hit the baseball, our CBS Sports Research Department put a note through today. Despite the 190 win percentage that we were just talking about with the Colorado Rockies, believe it or not, the Rockies have scored more runs this season than the first place Texas Rangers. Surprisingly so. So maybe the Rocky fans can at least hang their hat on that one. But you look at the American League West, there's only one team in that division with a positive run differential up to this point. Rangers are in first place with a negative 14 run differential. And last place are the A's with a negative 18 run differential. Astros are -2, and then the Angels, albeit a winning record, they are -9 in the run differential department. So I think the Angels, their schedule up to this point hasn't been the most difficult, but I do think the American League West as a whole, probably a little bit of a turning or a shifting of weights, if you will, with the Astros having this last decade and owning it. The Astros having been the favorites each and every year for the past decade. And then all of a sudden, Texas Rangers won the World Series a couple of years ago. The A's have gotten more competitive now. The Seattle Mariners have at least flirted, if not been in the postseason, each of the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. So I think there is a little bit of a turning of the tide in the American League West. I was very high on the Rangers coming into the season. I still am. I just think their bats have to get a little bit more healthier and have to get a few more at bats because they do have some guys coming off of injuries. Josh Young, they're hoping to get back White Langford, who just got off the injured list. I think it was yesterday. So I think they just need to get more at bats, and they'll start to see a little bit more consistency.
Yep, I think that that's so well said by you, and I do think that just consistency is going to be able to do them some good moving forward, and certainly the Rangers pitching, I would say, has been one of the better surprises of the baseball season thus far, and I do want to ask you about that as well. Just in terms of the entirety of the league, it could be a few specific players, it could be a team, it could be a unit, what have you. What's been a pleasant surprise for you thus far this season in Major League Baseball that you think might have the ability to be able to last throughout the season?
A couple different areas I look at. I think I kind of look at the Central divisions just because we don't talk much about them coming into the year. But the Tigers have really kind of taken that next step forward. We saw them go sneak into the playoffs really a year ago, and they won a playoff series, and they earned a little bit of respect for that. But everybody kind of wondered with the offseason, they brought back Jack Flaherty, but they had him a season ago. There's questions of whether the front office was going to do enough to help this Tigers team really become true contenders. And they're up to a nice 13-9 start. And the roster, with the help of their farm system, is looking better and better seemingly every single day. And they're having guys like Torkelson and Riley Green, guys that they got in the draft. They're looking better and better every single day. So I think the Tigers have been a bright spot for me. And then over in the National League side of things, the Cubs look legit. I warned people coming into the season to not overlook the acquisition of Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker does not have the aura, if you will. I think that's what the kids call it nowadays. The aura of, say, a Shohei Ohtani or an Aaron Judge, the base of the league type players. But it would be hard pressed to find 5 guys in the league right now at the top of their games that are better than Kyle Tucker. It would be very difficult to do. When Kyle Tucker is healthy, he is a top 5 player in Major League Baseball. And up to this point, he has been an MVP candidate. And that Chicago Cubs team absolutely rakes. If they can just find enough starting pitching to get them some quality starts, I think they'll run away with that Central Division with respects to the Brewers, with respects to the Reds.
Yeah, with that NL Central, I do agree with you there. Kyle Tucker has been such a good pickup for them. I think that the kids call it vibes these days, so we'll go with that. But yeah, absolutely, I'm right there with you, and I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what we get in both of those Centrals this season. So I'm so glad that you highlighted those. And Danny, I know you're doing a tremendous job with the Wake Rake Podcast. I know you're doing tremendous work over at CBS Sports and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you bet. Ton of baseball content, more and more baseball content, fortunately, coming across the CBS Sports pages. So definitely follow us at CBS Sports on all of your favorite social media sites and podcast networks.
No doubt. And Danny, he's one of the best in the business of taking a look at this great game of baseball. Every single time he joins me, lends such good insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Vietti Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Vietti Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Danny Vietti, who does great work over at CBS Sports. Along with that, the Rake and Wake Podcast. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, did so once again today. So big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_E1, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card? It is the St. Louis Cardinals on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Bryce Elder is on the bump for the Bravos. Miles Michaelis goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals between plus 140 to plus 148 dogs, and between minus 158 to minus 171. That number on Atlanta with a total of 8.5. Overs between minus 115 to minus 120. Unders between even minus 105. And I'm going to be in on the over. So my total 9.2. Recognize that for the Atlanta Braves, it's been a little bit less than tremendous this season in terms of the actual run scoring, but that said, I do think that they're starting to pick it up a little bit more with Austin Riley now being a bit above 275. He's been on a nice little power surge recently. Being able to get Alex Verdugo in the lineup is big as well. His second game with the team, he had 4+ hits. It's something that does impress me, and for the Atlanta Braves, have to figure that after yesterday they had to start Scott Blewett, that their bullpen is going to be a little bit tired. You're starting to see a little bit more as well from Marcell Ozuna in terms of on-base percentage, dealt with a little bit of injury, but 4 home runs in his first 62 at-bats of the season. And Sean Murphy actually has 5 home runs, though he's hitting for no average whatsoever. And for the Cardinals, you don't have a ton of power in the lineup right now with the Ivan Herrera injury, but have a lot of guys doing a nice job moving the line. Victor Scott, along with Jordan Walker, starting to take some strides forward as young guns. You've been able to have Nolan Arenado give you north of a 350 on base. I have to think that Wilson Contreras is going to pick it up a little bit. Just 2 home runs in his first 88 at bats. Not really doing a great job of moving the line, but got Lars Nootbaar is able to find a way on as well. Brendan Donovan was held out of the lineup yesterday, but he's a guy that is pretty rock solid. He is day to day though, so you do have to be factoring that in. And for the Cardinals, it is a bullpen that overall they have been a little bit suspect with regards to their bullpen on the road. As a matter of fact, they entered into yesterday 1-10 on the road this season, so that's a little bit of an issue. Phil Matone has been relatively solid, but he acted up on Monday. I absolutely love Ryan Elsling, what he's able to bring to the table, but Jojo Romero has been a little bit suspect. And for the Atlanta Braves, again, they did have to use up a lot of their bullpen pieces yesterday. Rossy Iglesias has been rock solid. I do like what I'm seeing on the likes of Dylan Lee and Yelday Los Santos, but have to wonder how close to full staff they're going to be as well. And I'm just not impressed by Bryce Elder whatsoever. Like for Bryce Elder, since the beginning of the 2024 season, he's been one of the worst pitchers that you've been able to find in all of baseball, posting up north of a 6.5 ERA, fielding independence a little bit lower than that, but giving up in that time span over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And Miles Michaelis, so his fielding independence is 3. That's merely because he doesn't give up a lot of homers, but he gives up everything else, only getting about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He just pumps it right down the middle, and guys are able to hit it. So I do think that you get a nice high-scoring expose in this one. I'm going to be willing to take the over, set my total 9.2. If you're looking at that Braves run line, right now I'm finding it at a plus 130 initially. If I could get closer to a plus 135, I'd be willing to take a shot there, but at a plus 148 or higher, that does become my buy point on the Cardinals. So we'll be looking at the Cardinals on a big plus money line and looking at this total over. 953, 954 on the card. The Miami Marlins are going to be playing against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we are on to Cincinnati. They're going to be utilizing Brady Singer. Oops, have the Marlins singing the blues. And Sandy Alcantara goes for the Marlins. Marlins do find themselves as a favorite of between minus 120 to a minus 130, and between plus 105 to plus 110 is that number on the Reds. 8 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. This is a price based on Sandy Alcantara reputation, or reputation only. I'm going to be in on the Reds money line. As a matter of fact, I feel like the Reds should be a minus 126 in this spot. With Sandy Alcantara, he's just not pitching like the former Cy Young Award winner that we've seen in the past. Boeing 7.27 ERA. He's giving up north of 5 walks per 9 innings. That'd be his highest mark since the 2018 season, and it's not like he's getting any sort of swings and misses. 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So, I mean, it's really not that tremendous. And for the Miami Marlins, you do have Matt Mervis, who's been able to give you 6 home runs this season, and guys are moving the line for the team. Like Xavier Edwards, he hit for a cycle last season, and he's been able to give you well north of a 350 on base. You've had the likes of a Connor Norby be able to step up, but now Derek Hill, Griffin Conine, both of these guys are on the injured list. They break back AC Sanchez, Dane Myers. These guys are good at being able to get on base, but other than Mervis, there's really no power on this team, and this is a bullpen that is below average with regards to ERA. When you've got the likes of a Lake Bakar coming in to hold down the fourth, that's not a place where you want to be. The Anthonys, Anthony Bender, Anthony Veziano, these are guys that are not necessarily so special. And for the Reds, I'm not saying that this is like some sort of lockdown amazing bullpen or anything like that, but you have quite a few guys that are performing quite well. I am not an Emilio Pagan guy. He gives up a lot of home runs, but when you're able to get into the likes of Taylor Rogers, Tony Santian, Scott Barlow, guys like this, that's pretty rock solid. Alexis Diaz began the season on the injured list, so once they get him back to full force, I think that he's going to be rock solid. And this is a lineup that is starting to pick it up for the Reds. The 24 runs that we saw on Sunday certainly helps that out, but Ellie De La Cruz, still one of the more fearsome hitters they're going to find in all of baseball. Kevin Luck's not necessarily a ton of power, but he's doing a good job of being able to move line for the team. He's hitting above a 300. TJ Friedel has been finding a way on, giving you north of a 350 on base. Christian Encarnacion strand. It's been a rough start to the season for him, but Jake Fraley is starting to give you a bit of something. Matt McClain, though not hitting for average, has 4 home runs thus far this season. And Brady Singer has been pretty rock solid for the Reds. A 3.80 ERA, but a 3.25 fielding independent. He's getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Throughout his career, he's always been an average to slightly above average pitcher. I expect him to give that performance here, and I'm against a Miami Marlins team without a lot of power. I think that wins out. Semi-total 7.7. I like the under, and I do like the Reds on the money line. I feel like they should be the favorite. 955, 956 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies are going to be on the road against the New York Mets, as David Peterson, great name, is on the bump for the Mets, and Zach Wheelan and Dylan Wheeler is on the bump for the Phillies. And the Phillies do find themselves between minus 110 to a minus 115 favorites, and between minus 105 to plus 103. That number on the Metropolitans with 7.5 the total, over and under both at minus 110. And I'm going to be willing to roll with the Philadelphia Phillies. I did set Wheeler and company as a minus 124 favorite. Now, I do recognize that with Zach Wheeler, throughout his career, his month with the highest ERA is actually March/April. He's always had a little bit of a tough time just getting the season started in general, but I do think that this is an advantageous spot just because I don't feel like David Peterson is as good of a pitcher as he has shown over the last, we're going to call it, about 12 or so months now. I will say this, with the New York Mets, they've always done a pretty rock solid job against Zach Wheeler. He's got a career 3.56 ERA against them. He doesn't necessarily give up the deep ball against the Mets for his career. He's only giving up a half home run per 9 innings, but they have been able to find a way to be able to move the line and get on base against them. And then for David Peterson. If you take a look at what he was able to do last season, he put together a 2.90 ERA, but that was backed up by a 3.67 fielding independent. He was only getting 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings and was giving up 3.4 walks per 9. He gave up a lot of contact. He was able to get weaseled out of it, and now he has to face off against a Philadelphia Phillies lineup that is one of the better ones in all of baseball. You've had Kyle Schwarber give you some really good performances to start the season. 7 home runs, north of 400 on base. You've got Bryce Harper, who entered into yesterday with a 400 on base. He's been able to give you 5 bombs. Would like to see that maybe go northward a little bit, but off to a solid start. You do have a few guys towards the bottom of the fold that they do need to give you a little bit more. JT Realmuto, Max Kepler, both hitting about a 230, but Bryson Stott is starting to be able to get on base. Trey Turner, after a little bit of a slow start to the season, hasn't provided a lot of power, but he's finding a way on. And for the New York Mets, they've been dealing with some issues with regards to their lineup as well. When Mark Vientos has been out there, he's been struggling, and now he's dealing with a little bit of injury. Pete Alonso, no issues whatsoever with him. Pete Alonso, north of a 400 on base. He's been able to provide the team with 5+ homers. He has been tremendous. Juan Soto, not necessarily providing the deep ball right now, but still finding a way to be able to give you north of a 350 on base. Nearly missed a home run on Monday. Brandon Nimmo, you need a little bit more out of him in terms of average, but has been able to give the team 4 home runs. And Francisco Lindor, over the last week or so, he has really been able to find it. And for the Mets, this has been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I don't know if it's going to be super long lasting. I do like the long guys for this team. Oscar Barzobin is able to give you multiple innings. He's been rock solid. Jose Buto is someone I really like, along with Max Chronic. He did have a little bit of a rough go of it his last time out, but all these guys have been solid. Edwin Diaz is probably your main concern right now. He's seen a little bit of velocity dip. He hasn't been great. And then AJ Minter could be a little bit of a roll of the dice as well, but I don't know. These guys have been performing relatively well, and this is a Phillies team that has one of the worst bullpen ERAs they're going to find in all of baseball. Now, their big three has been good. Orion Kerkering, Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, they get the job done, but when you get into the likes of Jordan Romano, Carlos Hernandez, that's when things really get dicey. But I do think that for the Philadelphia Phillies, they go out there, they get to Peterson, and they do find a way to get the job done with Zach Wheeler, being sometimes a little bit hit or miss against the New York Mets, but I think that this will be a hit. I set them as a minus 124 favorite, so I do like the Phillies on the money line, and I'm in on the over. Semi total of 7.7, 957, 958 on the card. The LA Dodgers hit the road. They're facing off against the Chicago Cubs. Matthew Boyd is on the bump for the Cubs. Right now, it is to be determined on the betting board for the Dodgers, so this game is off the board. I was seeing on CBS Sports that they're expecting Matt Sauer to make a start for the Dodgers. He's been making some starts at the AAA level for Oklahoma City. You could see perhaps an opener situation, then recall Sauer, something like that. So if you get something like this, if you get like an opener in Sauer, if you get him like coming out of the bullpen or something like that, I did set the Cubs as a minus 104 favorite, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 103 with the Cubs. Plus 105 or higher, we'll be looking at the Dodgers, and then set a total to where 8.5 or less. I'm going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Now, you're not going to get a lot of wind in Wrigley Field on Wednesday. It looks like the winds are going to be blowing in, but they're going to be blowing in at less than 5 miles per hour, so very tame, not going to be like over the top or anything like that, so that's going to be able to help out both of these pitchers. And for Matthew Boyd, he has been rock solid ever since pitching for the Cleveland Guardians last season. He's gotten a new lease on life ever since coming off of some major surgery, and if you take a look at his 12 starts since the beginning of the 2024 season, posting up a 2.47 ERA. Now, there should be a little bit of regression here. The fielding independence more like a 3.30, but he's doing a nice job keeping the ball in the yard, giving up only about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff is good. He's been able to get 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and if you do get Sauer, well, I was mentioning a little bit before, he was pitching for the Kansas City Royals last year, has made one relief appearance for the LA Dodgers thus far this season, but over in the AAA level, he has been able to give the team some relatively good starts, and 3 starts, he's been getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings on allowing the deep ball. Not a guy that's going to like super duper overpower you or anything like that, but I've been liking what I've been seeing out of him, and he is going to be backed up by one of the best lineups in all of baseball, even with the LA Dodgers having a little bit of struggle over the last, we're going to call it about week and a half or so, with regards to bats. You know that these guys can explode at any given time. You've got a guy, Mookie Betts, who's been able to do such a good job of moving the line, getting on base with a 350 on base. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is incredible, 375 on base, 6 home runs. Tommy Edman, he's up to 7 bombs as well, and even though you've had Max Muncy really struggle, not be able to give you a home run. Michael Conforto, Andy Paz are hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. You know that these guys are going to be able to pick it up. And for the Chicago Cubs, they entered into the series actually number one in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. I think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with this lineup, but we talked about Danny Vietti. The fact that you've got Kyle Tucker performing the way that he is incredible. 400 on base, 6 home runs going into yesterday. Seiya Suzuki along with Carson Kelly both have 6 bombs apiece as well. And Kelly has done it in 35 at-bats as well. So he's been a really nice addition for the team. Nico Horner's hitting at 300. Michael Busch is hitting at 300. Pico Armstrong, these guys at the bottom of the fold, they're starting to give you a little bit of something. Now, you do have to have a little bit of trepidation when it comes to this Cubs bullpen. Last year, towards the back half of the campaign, a lot of these guys were rock solid, but they've been a little bit more testy this year. Eli Morgan is on the injured list after he was terrible. Ryan Brazier's on the injured list, and Nate Pearson just has not been good for them in general. You saw Porter Hoge, who I like, but we saw him act up over the weekend as well. And for the LA Dodgers, even though they're dealing with a whole bunch of injuries to their bullpen, you still have a lot of guys who are able to go out there and perform. You're going to be without Blake Trine for the next week or so, or probably even more than that. But that said, you've still been able to get some good performances out of the likes of a Tanner Scott. I like what you've been able to get out of Jack Dreyer in a long spot as well. Ben Casprios is able to hold down the fort as well. So I do think that for the Cubs, they should be a very slight favorite in this ordeal. One lay up to minus 103 with them, plus 105 or higher looking at the Dodgers, and then set a total to where an 8.5 or less, I'm in on the over 9 or higher, the under. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers hit the road. They're facing off against the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants, and you've got Freddie Peralta on the bump for the Brewers. And the Brewers do find themselves as underdogs between plus 115 to plus 122, right around minus 130 to minus 135. That number on the Giants. 6.5 to 7 is the total. On the 6.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even. On the 7, under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. I'd be willing to take a shot on the over. I did set my total at 7.2. Logan Webb, though, he is always more dominant at home rather than on the road. I'm going to be willing to lay up to about a minus 140 with the Giants on the money line with Logan Webb. Just every single time you can get him at home, there's good value there for his career. This dates back to the beginning of the 2019 season. At home, he gives up less than a half home run per 9 innings. His ERA is a microscopic 2.73. This shoots up to a 4.03 when he is on the road. This guy is very locked down. He always is able to bear down when he is at home. And for Freddie Peralta, he's been off to a relatively nice start to the season. Swing and miss stuff is always there with him. 10.5 punch outs per 9 innings, 191 ERA. I think that there might be a little bit of regression here. 315 fielding independent, but I mean, for his standards, 2.9 walks per 9 innings with the way that he's able to get punch outs, that's very rock solid. Now for the Milwaukee Brewers, the bullpen has not been as good as it was last year, and I'm somewhere between A and B on the Brewers. Last year they had the number 1 bullpen ERA in the National League. I don't think that they're that good. I also don't think that they're a bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA bad as well, so I do think that there should be some positivity for this team because you bring back so many of these guys from a season ago, the likes of Ayo Payams, Elvis Figueroa, Trevor McGill, Brian Hudson, Jared Koenig, all these guys. So, I mean, they've been rock solid. And actually, your best relief piece has been Abner Uribe, sub-1 ERA going into yesterday. For the Brewers, you've got a few guys at the top of the lineup that are doing a nice job of being able to move the line. And Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick hitting above a 300. The power is starting to come back for this team with Jackson Chourio. Give you 5 home runs as far this season. Doesn't draw a lot of walks, but does a nice job being able to find a way on base. Christian Yelich, he just is not that same guy that we've seen in past years. He does have 4 home runs this year, but hitting only about a 211 going into yesterday. And then you just have some suspectness with regards to the infield. The likes of Oliver Dunn, Caleb Durbin. What are you going to be able to get out of them? Vinny Capra has seen a few at-bats, so that's a bit of an issue. And for the San Francisco Giants, as we were talking about Danny Vietti, this team has really done a nice job going out there, being able to revamp this lineup, having a fully healthy Jung-Ho Lee, and him being able to give you north of a 300 average to begin the season has been solid. Wilmer Flores, 7 home runs going into yesterday. He has been tremendous. Not necessarily hitting for a lot of average, but he's doing a great job supplying the power for this team. Matt Chapman, he entered into yesterday with about a 400 on base. Mike Yastrzemski north of a 400 on base as well. And for the Giants, I'm not going to say that this bullpen is amazing, but I'm starting to warm up on them a little bit. Camilo Udval, I don't know if he's ever going to find it once again, but I mean, Randy Rodriguez has been really good in this bullpen, has yet to allow an earned run. Lou Trevino has been rock solid. Tyler Rogers has been able to give you good innings. So I do like the way that things are materializing for the Giants, and I do like this lineup in general. Did set my total 7.2. I like the over, and want to lay up to a minus 140 on that Giants money line. 961, 962 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians playoffs to the New York Yankees. Juan Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and Luis Ortiz is on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians are underdogs between plus 118 to plus 127, right around minus 136 and minus 142. That number on the Yankees, with 8 being the total, seeing some 8.5s out there as well. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, the over is even, and on the 8, Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I set the Guardians at a minus 102. I'm willing to take a shot on them on the money line. Now for Luis Ortiz, he has been getting 9.5 strikeouts per nine. He's a career best. He also does have a 5.40 ERA, so you do have to have your trepidations and your cautions there. But it's not like Carlos Rodon has been the ace that the Yankees were signing up for a few years ago. 4.34 ERA this season, fielding independent, right on par with that. He's given up 1.6 home runs and 5 walks per 9 innings, albeit he's up to about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. But this is a Cleveland Guardians lineup that is one of the better teams in the big leagues in terms of not striking out. You've had Kyle Manzardo not necessarily hit for a lot of average, but entering into yesterday, doing a nice job supplying 7 home runs, 17 RBI. Steven Kwan has been tremendous at the leadoff spot. 4 home runs entering into yesterday, darn near 400 on base. Jose Ramirez has been a little bit suspect for the team over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but you know that he's going to be able to pick up the big trepidation that you do have right now with the Cleveland Guardians as the bottom of the fold. Brian Rocchio is starting to hit a little bit more, but when you do have some of these guys like a Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges when he's in there, Daniel Schneemann, you just need a little bit more out of those guys. And with having Nolan Jones struggling, that makes it all the more paramount on that front end for the New York Yankees. Ben Rice is able to go deep yesterday. 6 bombs right around about 400 on base. Aaron Judge, we all know what he's capable of. North of a 470 on base with 7 home runs this season. Paul Goldschmidt has not really had a lot of home run power this year, but he's doing a good job moving the line. As Waldo Cabrera, guys like this, they've all been able to step up in a big way. Heck, throwing their Trent Grisham as well. So the Yankees have been the Death Star with regards to their lineup. But for the New York Yankees, you do have some suspect bullpen pieces as well. You're coming off of a Will Warren start, so you know that this bullpen is going to be a little bit worn out. Mark Leiter Jr., Tim Hill, they just have not lived up to their billing since they've gotten to New York. I will say Leiter, not too bad thus far this season. I like Ian Hamilton in this bullpen as well. Devin Williams has been shaky as a closer. Luke Weaver has been by far your best bullpen piece in this bullpen. And for the Cleveland Guardians, I will say I'm not a big fan of either Paul Sewald or Emmanuel Clase. Right now, both of these guys have been very suspect, but likes of Tim Aaron, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, throwing their Jacob Junis, these guys are very rock solid in the bullpen for the Guardians. They do have that number 1 bullpen ERA in the big league since the start of the 2024 season, and I'm willing to trust it here. I did set my total at 7.9, so here at the 8, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under at an 8.5, all the better. And for the Cleveland Guardians, I'm willing to trust in them on the money line, made them the pretty much even money favorite. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners hit the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox. Sean Newcomb is on the bump for the Sox. Emerson Hancock is going for Seattle, and Seattle does find themselves as underdogs between plus 110 to a plus 122, minus 130 and minus 135 is that number on Boston, and 9.5 to 10 is the total on the 9.5. Over is minus 120 and the under is even, and on the 10, the under is minus 115, the over is minus 105. Did set my total at a 9.8. I'm going to be willing to dive in on the under. For the Seattle Mariners, the bullpen isn't great, but is at the same time not terrible. And Emerson Hancock, he has yet to be able to find it at the big league level. This is someone that is not going to give you like a whole bunch of swings and misses or anything like that. He's a developing arm, though, and if you trust in the just overall pitching coaches and the overall organization of the Seattle Mariners, there should be a little bit of positivity here. And I will say for Hancock, he's won 5 2/3 innings this far this season. He has given up 8 runs. That has been very much less than tremendous. And when he was at the big league level last year, he was only getting about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. If you look at his brief minor league numbers this season, 2 starts at the minor league level, he was able to go in 9 2/3 innings, go for 12 strikeouts. So that's something that is encouraging. And I do think that he's going to be able to give you a little bit more moving forward. And for Sean Newcomb, he's getting his first chance to start really since the 2018 season and hasn't necessarily made the most of it. Now, I will say in his 4 starts, it's not like he's been a disaster. Like the 0-2 record isn't great, but 363 ERA, 258 fielding independent. He is getting right around 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And you also do have a Seattle Mariners team that their home and road splits are about as demonstrative as it gets in all of baseball, because for Seattle, their ballpark actually mitigates offense more than Coors Field elevates offense, which is why you've right now got a Seattle team that's averaging about 3.6 runs per game at home, north of 5.6 runs per game away from home going into Tuesday. And with the Seattle Mariners, you've been able to get quite a bit of production out of the main poppers and home run hitters for the team. Big dumper Cal Raleigh has been absolutely incredible for the team as he's been able to rip 7+ home runs thus far this season. He's never going to hit for like the world's greatest average, though he is giving the team right now north of a 335 on base. I think that might sink down a little bit more. You could use a few guys like Julio Rodriguez, Rowdy Tellez, Luke Raley, or hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200 to be able to give you a little bit more average. Randy Arozarena has only been able to hit about a 200 as well, but with the Arozarena, he has given you north of a 350 on base. And the gentleman that they get in from the Chicago Cubs, Miles Mastrobuoni, I don't know if he's going to be able to continue this, but that said, to begin the season. He has been able to give the team north of a 350 on base as well. And for the Boston Red Sox, they've been a little bit shaky with their offense recently. Trevor Story is sitting well above a 300. He's been able to give you about 5 home runs thus far this season, and I love what I'm seeing out of Christian Campbell. North of a 400 on base, relatively good power ever since his rough first week or so of the season. Rafael Devers has been able to move the line, but Jaron Duran sitting just at 240 with not a lot of power. Tristan Casas just has not been able to get on base. Sedani Rafaela, you expect a little bit more out of him, and there's just a lot of shakiness when it comes to this Boston Red Sox bullpen. Greg Weiser has had some less than savory moments to begin the season. Justin Slayton just has not been good in general, and when Aroldis Chapman is your closer, that's not a good place to be. Going into yesterday, the Red Sox 22nd in the big leagues with their 4.46 bullpen ERA, and with the Seattle Mariners. Again, I think that this is about a league average bullpen. Andres Munoz is one of the best closers that you're going to find in all baseball. They've been dealing with a few injuries. Trent Thornton, I know, has been dealing with injuries. Matt Brash is currently on the injured list as well, but someone like a Colin Snyder, Gabe Spire, these guys have been rock solid. Getting back Thornton helps them out a little bit, and you've got Gregory Santos, who's able to give you some good innings as well. So it's an interesting place to be because Hancock is a little bit of a young gun that is a bit unproven, but I do think that this total has gone just a scotch too far. I set my total at 9.8, so here at the 10, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I would rather have a 10 under rather than a 9.5 over, and with Boston, I did set them on the money line at a minus 131, so seeing that minus 130, minus 128, I'm going to be taking a shot on them on the money line. 965, 966 on the betting board. The Houston Astros play host to the Toronto Blue Jays. Bowden Francis goes for Toronto, and Ryan Gusto is on the bump for the Astros, who find themselves in a rather pick'em game. Right now, with the Astros, you're going to be finding them as good as even money, as bad as minus 110. For the Blue Jays, as bad as minus 115, as good as a minus 108 on them. And the total is 8.5. Over and under, both at minus 110, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I did set my total here at a 8.1, as for Francis, he has really been able to take off since the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign. If you look since the All-Star break, he has been posting up an ERA of a 2.20, 1.6 walks per 9 innings. Now, he has been giving up right around about 1.3, 1.4 home runs per 9 innings in that time span, but has really been able to come into his own. And you've got a pair of teams that have been struggling on the offensive side of things as well. You've got an Astros team that entered into Tuesday in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Jose Altuve has still been able to deliver what you'd expect from Jose Altuve, hitting above a 303 home runs thus far this season, but nobody on this Astros team has north of 3 home runs. Yordan Alvarez has been in a power outage, entered into yesterday with 2 bombs, give you less than a 335 on base. Jeremy Pena's not really been able to give you a ton. Christian Walker's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Yannier Diaz does not draw walks, and he's hitting above 50, so that's not been great. Cam Smith has been able to give up the 3 home runs this season. He seems to be coming into his own, but I mean, it's been a hit or miss offense. Isak Paredes hasn't been amazing, hasn't been terrible thus far, and the former Astro and George Springer has actually been really good at being able to get on base. To begin the season, only 2 home runs, but give you north of 400 on base for Vlad Guerrero Jr., even though he was stuck on 1 home run going into yesterday, still giving you about a 400 on base. Bo Bichette is hitting a 300. Got a lot of guys that are moving line, though. I will say, the bottom of the lineup with the likes of Will Wagner, Nathan Luke, throwing their Ernie Clement. You're not getting a ton out of those guys, and the big thing for the Blue Jays is that they're right towards the bottom of the big leagues in terms of their home run power. Like, you've got a lot of guys that are doing a solid job of being able to hit for singles and doubles, but you don't have guys that are necessarily driving the ball out of the yard. And for the Blue Jays, this is a bullpen that I'm actually starting to feel a little bit more bullish about. Chad Green has always been pretty solid throughout his career. Nick Sandlin, Jeff Hoffman, these guys have been pretty locked down in that bullpen as well. Yimi Garcia has yet to give up a run thus far this season. And on the flip side for the Houston Astros, Taylor Scott, who was so good for the bullpen last season, he has been shaky to say the least, but you do have Josh Hader is starting to look like the Josh Hader that we all know and love. And Ryan Gusto, how about a big of a find this guy has been for the team. He's been able to give you 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 3.18 ERA. Began the season out of the bullpen. He's starting to get stretched out as a starter, and he was a long reliever coming out of the bullpen to start out with. So he was going multiple innings. You've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu. I feel pretty rock solid about both of these guys, and I do think that moving forward, having Steven Okert coming out of the bullpen, that's going to be able to help them out as well, as he's posted up a sub-1 ERA. But I do think that for the Toronto Blue Jays, having Bowden Francis is just a big advantage for them. I did set the Blue Jays as a very narrow minus 104 favorite. If you're taking a look at the run line in their ordeal right now, you're able to get that at about a plus 160. I would be willing to take a shot on laying a run half at a plus 160, because I do think that there's still a little bit of suspectness with regards to this Houston Astros team in general. Typically, they start out a little bit slow, and we've been noticing that thus far this season. So if I absolutely had to play this right now, I would be looking at that plus 160 run line of the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'd be diving in on the under. Really am a believer in Bowden Francis, so liking the under and that Jays run line. 967, 968 on the betting board. This game is off the board as you got the Chicago White Sox on the road against the Minnesota Twins, as it is David Fessa looking to have a fiesta for the Minnesota Twins, and right now it's old to be determined who's on the bump for the White Sox. Now, when I was looking on CBS Sports, they were lining up Tyler Gilbert as their starter, and Tyler Gilbert came out of the bullpen a few days ago for the Chicago White Sox. I pretty much have this as a bullpen game, and if you do get some young gun starter as a Chicago White Sox, it might as well be a bullpen game for them, and if you get bullpen game against David Fessa, I'd be willing to lay up to about a minus 122 on that Twins run line, set their money line at a minus 243, and made a total to where an 8 or less. I'm looking at the over 8.5 or higher, the under. This White Sox team is averaging fewer than 2.5 runs per game when they're away from home. You just don't have a lot of offense with this team. Now, good news for them is that they've got Andrew Benintendi back in the fold after he was missing a little bit of time due to injury, but there's just not a lot of redeeming qualities in general with the Chicago White Sox team. Since the beginning of the 2024 season, they have lost north of 135 games. It's just brutal for these guys. Andrew Vaughn has been able to give you a little bit of pop, 3 home runs, but he's also got a 193 on base. The player with the most at-bats on the team is Miguel Vargas, along with Andrew Vaughn, and both of these guys are a $152 or lower. Lennon Sosa has been able to give you about a 300 on base. That's been helpful, but Luis Robert is hitting a $145 with 2 home runs thus far this season. Michael A. Taylor has been useless for the team. You've got Mike Tauchman currently on the injured list. The catcher spot with guys like Corey Lee and company actually hasn't been absolutely terrible, but man, it's just not good, and it's not like you're backed up by some sort of amazing bullpen. They were trotting out their Mike Clevenger out of the bullpen for a while, and that wasn't working out. Mike Vasil might have a little bit of upside. He's won 12 and a third innings scoreless. Penn Murphy, Cam Boucher, these guys aren't necessarily terrible, but if you do get someone like a Tyler Gilbert, Frazier Allard, guys like this that have to pitch multiple innings, not a place where you want to be, and for David Fessa, I do think that this guy has a lot of upside for the Minnesota Twins, as he's been, since he got called up to the big league level, doing a nice job of being able to generate a bunch of swings and misses for his career. 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks were an issue for him last year, a little bit over 3 walks per 9 innings, but for his career, he's got a 4.30 ERA compared to a 3.56 fielding independent, only giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. And for the Minnesota Twins, it has been all sorts of rough in terms of this lineup as well, because Royce Lewis, once again, shock, surprise, surprise, he's back on the injured list. Where have we seen this before? But I do think that for Minnesota, you're going to be able to get a little bit more moving forward out of this lineup, even with Matt Wallner currently dealing with injury. Byron Buxton has been able to supply a quartet of home runs, but only about a 277 on base. Carlos Correa, Trevor Larnach, both hitting below the middle line of 200 with 1 home run piece. You know that these guys are a little bit better than that. Have to expect moving forward that you're going to get a bit more out of the catcher spot with Ryan Jeffers, Christian Vasquez, both off to rough starts of the season. I think that they'll pick it up a little bit, so I do think that this is a good buy low spot on the Twins. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 122 on that run line. Need at least a plus 244 to take a shot on the White Sox money line. Then 8 or less like the over 8.5 or higher. The under 969, 970 on the betting board. You've got the Texas Rangers on the road facing off against the Athletics as the Sacramento A's throw out their JP Sears and Kumar Rocker is on the bump for Texas. Texas is in a relatively pick'em game between minus 106 and minus 112 is their number, and for the A's, you're going to be getting them between minus 101 and minus 110. 9.5 is the total. Under is between minus 115 to a minus 120. The over is between even and minus 105. With the A's, I did set them at a minus 104. Right now, I'm seeing some minus 104s. I'm seeing some even money. I would be willing to side with them. Kumar Rocker looked much better with his swings and misses in his last start, and when he's really able to get it going, I think that this guy is going to be just absolutely filthy, but when he misses very badly, as he does have the propensity to get hit really hard. And I will say, for his career, he's got a 5.40 ERA, but a 3.72 fielding independent. Should be doing for a little bit of positivity, and he hasn't given up as many deep balls as I would have expected, as he, for his career, is only giving up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, but first few starts of the season, you could tell that the deception wasn't there the way you'd expect for a guy like this. And throughout his Oakland A's career, JP Sears has always had the propensity to getting it relatively hard. Overall, for his A's career, he's given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, 4.42 ERA, but a 4.85 fielding independent. And for JP Sears, he does get to face off against a Rangers team that has struggled at the plate thus far this season. As for the Texas Rangers, we laid it out with Danny Vietti. This team is a bottom 5 team in terms of runs per game thus far this season, but they've been able to win so many games because their pitching has been rock solid. But I do think that there's positivity moving forward for the Texas Rangers team. Adolis Garcia is not going to hit for average average, but he has been able to give the team 4 bombs as far as the season. Corey Seager over the last 2.5 weeks, he's been doing a nice job finding a way to move the line. 350 on base, 4 home runs, so you do like to see that. Wyatt Langford being on the injured list is hurting the seam a little bit, and you just see Jock Peterson and Jake Berger to give you a little bit more. Both of these guys entered into yesterday with a sub-240 on-base percentage, and Jock Peterson hitting a nice hearty 0.55 with 0 home runs. You gotta expect that's going to get better. Marcus Semien, 209 on base with 1 home run in his first 78 at-bats of the season. Again, this should be seeing some positivity here, and for the Athletics, they play in one of the best hitters ballparks in all of baseball, because in Sacramento, the ball is just absolutely flying right now. Tyler Soderstrom is taking full advantage of this, with Soderstrom 9 home runs in his first 22 games to begin the season, north of a 360 on base. Brent Rooker, not really moved the line, only about a 280 or so on base, but he's been able to do a nice job of being able to supply 6 home runs. You've got 5 bombs out of Shea Langolaris, who's not hitting for a lot of average, but he's able to give you a whole bunch of power. Miguel Andujar, along with Jacob Wilson, have done a nice job moving the line, and for the A's, you do have to have some, shall we say, question marks in terms of this bullpen, especially with Michael Otons on the injured list. Now, Mason Miller is one of the better closers that you're going to find in all of baseball, but when you do get into the likes of a Jason Alexander, Anel Perdomo, TJ McFarland, these have been guys that have been very untrustworthy, and surprisingly, you've been able to get some good production out of this Rangers bullpen. They're about 17th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA entering into Tuesday. The A's were on about 25th, and I mean, for the Rangers to be able to get the bullpen production that they are, with someone like a Luke Wilson being your main closer, Mark Church is right now seeing meaningful innings. That's out of place where you want to be now. They no longer have Jose Leclerc. He's on the A's side, so that's probably why they have a better bullpen ERA than the Oakland A's as of right now. But that said, I do think that for JP Sears, he's going to give up some runs. Kumar Rocker is certainly going to give up his as well, but in the end, I do have a little bit more faith in this A's lineup, so I did set them at a -104, right around about even money or so. Going to be taking a shot on the A's on the money line, and I do like the over, so my total 9.7. 971, 972 on the card. The Detroit Tigers play Osley Slam Diego Padres, as Reese Olson is on the bump for the Tigers, and you've got Kyle Hart on the bump for the Padres. Padres are an underdog of anywhere between +130 to +136, and between -150 to -155, seeing straight -144. That is your number on Detroit, with 8 being the total, over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115, and if you're looking at the run line of the Tigers, you're able to find that at a +135, but I'm going to be taking a look at the San Diego Padres in this ordeal, as at a +136 or higher, I was willing to buy in on them. For Kyle Hart, it's not necessarily been the return to the States that he was hoping for, as he completely tore it up at the KBO last season, and it's been a little bit shaky, to say the least, for him, but he is going to be backed up by a bullpen that is in the top 3 in all of baseball in terms of ERA, likes of Yuki Matsui, Jeremiah Estrada, Robert Suarez, all these guys being able to supply a sub-250 ERA. That's going to be able to help them out. Hank Adrian Morejon has been a very good long guy for the team, and for Hart, he's right now posting up a 6.48 ERA through his first 4 starts since returning to the States, and the big reason why has been the deep ball. He has given up in his 4 starts 4 home runs across 16 and 2/3 innings, not getting any swings and misses as well, only about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's backed up by a 586 fielding independent. Not as if he's been getting super duper unlucky or anything like that. And for Reese Olson, last year he was a victim of a little bit of bad luck. He had like a 4-8 record, despite the fact that his ERA was a 3.53 and his fielding independent was a 3.17. As far as this season, a little bit more bad luck for Reese Olson. 4.50 ERA, but he's only giving up a 3.69 fielding independent, has allowed just 1 home run across his first 4 starts of the season, but the walks are up. He is giving up 4.5 walks per 9 innings, and does have to face off against a Padres lineup that is one of the best that you're going to find in all of baseball. You've had Fernando Tatis Jr. absolutely rip the cover off the ball, 6+ home runs, north of a 400 on base. Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Gavin Sheets, Tyler Wade, they're all giving you at least a 360 on base as well. Heck, Elias Diaz was able to go deep yesterday, so that shows you where this team is at. Jose Iglesias is finding a way to move the lineup. For the Detroit Tigers, this is a much better lineup than we've seen in the past. Gary Carpenter, 4+ homers, hitting for darn near 300. You've had Dylan Dingler at the catcher spot, be able to find a way to move the line, give you a little bit of power. Riley Green, a little bit suspect in terms of the way that he's been able to get on base this season, but Spencer Torkelson, 6+ home runs, he's supplying well north of a 370 on base. And for the Detroit Tigers, this team is amazing at mixing and matching in their bullpen, as you've got a guy in Brad Herter who's able to give you multiple innings. They are dealing with a few ailments in that bullpen, as Bo Brisky, John Brebby are currently on the injured list, but Will Vaz, Sammy Canley, Tyler Holton, guys like this, they're able to do a nice job coming in there, hold down the fort. You've got so many guys that are just able to add at a moment's notice be able to give you good innings. Now, don't want any part of Kenta Maeda, but even something like a Brandon Hennefy when he's out there, he's able to give you some good innings as well. So it is very interesting ordeal here. Being able to get the Padres at this big of plus money, even with the way that Kyle Hart has pitched, I do like that angle, and I do like both of these bullpens being able to hold it down after you might get a little bit of shakiness of these two starters. So I did set my total at a 7.8. Here at the 8, I like the under, and I do like the Padres at a plus 136 or higher on that money line. 973 and 974 on the betting board. You've got the Washington Nationals playing against the Baltimore Orioles as it is Trevor Williams on the bump for the Nats, and you've got Tomoyuki Sugano who's on the bump for the Orioles, and the Orioles do find themselves as minus 135 to minus 142 favorites, plus 118 to plus 122. That's your number on the Washington Nationals. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105, and if you're looking to lay the run line of the Baltimore Orioles, you're only getting that right around about a plus 120 or so. I'm seeing as low as a plus 118, so a little bit of suspectness there with the Washington Nationals. Do need closer to about a plus 123, plus 124 to take a shot on the money line. And when we do get the timelines out, most of these places are putting up more of a 20-cent line. I do think I should be able to get that plus 125 Nationals money line. So I'm right now looking there. If worse comes to it, I'll probably be able to get like a minus 135 in terms of getting a run half, and I'd be willing to take a shot there. As for Trevor Williams, he was actually really good for the team last season. Not a guy that's going to light you up on the radar gun and is going to give you like 10 strikeouts per 9 innings or anything like that. But for Trevor Williams, he does a nice job of being able to induce some soft contact. Has had a little bit of issue thus far this season through his first 4 starts, 5.95 ERA, but just a 4.31 fielding independent. He's only giving up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. Has given up 3 home runs in his first 19 and 2/3 innings, so a little bit of reversal of what we saw last season where he got only 3 home runs surrendered in 66 plus innings. But that said, on the flip side, you do have to have a few question marks with regards to Sugano, because even though he's been able to do a nice job of keeping the ball in the yard, what have you, he's just pitching to a lot of contact. And even when he was over in the Nippon Baseball League in Japan, he would pitch to a lot of contact. And for Sugano, 3.43 ERA, but a 5.61 fielding independent. He has made 4 starts this season. He has given up 4 home runs over the course of 21 innings, but has only been burnt for 8 runs allowed. Does a good job in terms of his command, only giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings, but he's also getting only about 3.5 strikeouts per 9 innings as well. So there's a lot of question marks to be had there. And for the Washington Nationals, this is a lineup that is able to belt the ball a little bit more than in past years. Picking up Nathaniel Lowe, who's been able to give you 4+ home runs, has been a really nice add for them. And James Wood, how about him being able to supply the team with 6+ homers? He's been able to do a nice job of giving you about a 350 or so on base. If I keep Ruiz hit about a 300 for the team, need a little bit more of Josh Bell, Dylan Cruz, some of these guys that are just young guns in general. Trade Lipscomb whenever he gets opportunities. These guys have been a little bit suspect, and though Jacob Young is only hitting a 225 with not a lot of power, north of a 350 on base for him. And for Baltimore, you've had a few guys that have just been uncharacteristically bad at the plate. The entire catcher spot has been a little bit of a unmitigated disaster. Jordan Westberg, Adley Rushman, both of these guys a sub 300 on base. They've had issues being able to move the line. Tyler O'Neill, 2 home runs with about a 320 on base. You just expect a little bit more power there, as your main guy this season has been Cedric Mullins. Mullins well north of a 425 on base, 6 home runs. He has been the best hitter by far for the team as they look to pick up the pieces without Anthony Santander, and Gunnar Anderson has had a slow start to the season as well. For the Orioles, I actually really like this bullpen. You've got a pair of guys in Yunier Cano, Felix Bautista. They're so good in the 8th and 9th innings. So Anthony Dominguez entered into yesterday, having not allowed an earned run all season long, and Gregory Soto has looked a little bit more stable as well. For the Washington Nationals, that is a big trepidation that you've got with this team. It's just a bullpen that I don't trust in. You've got a closer in Kyle Finnegan that I've never been too fond of. You've got a lot of guys like an Eduardo Salazar, Colin Pouchet, Lucas Sims, that they have been rough to say the least over the last few seasons. So I do have to have my question marks and my trepidations there. If you're looking at just overall bullpen ERA this far this season, the Washington Nationals entered into the day on Tuesday, dead last in the big leagues. But that said, I do think that Trevor Williams goes out there, gives you a good start. If you're able to get a plus 125 or higher, we'll be looking at that money line. And did somebody tell it at 8.7? You've got a Nationals team that is a little bit banged up with CJ Abrams being on the injured list. And for the Orioles, just hasn't been the offense that we've seen in past years. So looking at that under and looking at the Nationals at a plus 124 or higher on the money line. line, 975, 976 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies hit the road to face off against the Kansas City Royals. Michael Lorenzen is on the bump for the Royals, and Esteban Marquez is on the bump for Colorado. 8.5 is the total. Over is between minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even minus 105. For the Royals, they're between minus 185 to minus 198 favorites, between plus 160 to plus 170. That number on Colorado. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Royals, you're going to be finding that at a plus 115, and I'm going to be willing to lay that run half. I set by a run line price at a minus 112 on the Royals. For Michael Lorenzen, this isn't really a vote of confidence for him because he was one of the luckiest pitchers in all baseball last season. Posted up a ERA that was hovering right around about a 3.31 despite the fact that his fielding independent was a 4.80. This season it's actually been the reverse. He's got a 4.57 ERA but a 3.64 fielding independent as he's only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings but is keeping the ball in the yard. He's cut down on the walks last year, was giving up 4.1 walks per 9 innings down to about 2.9 walks per 9 innings this season, but this is just flat out a fade of the Colorado Rockies who going into the day on Tuesday were averaging less than 2 runs per game away from home, and they were hitting as a collective below the Mendoza line of 200, and the Colorado Rockies always have the most demonstrative home and road splits in all of baseball when it comes to their offense. Hunter Goodman has like 3 of the 6 home runs that they've hit away from home this far this season. Ryan McMahon is hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. Jacob Stallings, Michael Toglia, Jordan Beck. You've got a lot of guys hitting below 200 for the team. Kyle Farmer's been solid. Kyle Farmer's hitting like at 300, so that's good, but Sean Borchard is right now one of your better hitters, and that's a place where you don't want to be. Now, the Royals, dead last in terms of runs per game entering into yesterday as well. You have to feel like some of these guys are going to start to pick it up. MJ Melendez has been a disaster. Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Hunter Renfroe, all these guys hanging below the Mendoza line of 200 going into yesterday with not a lot of power. These guys are going to eventually pick it up for the Royals. I don't believe that anyone entering into yesterday had more than 2 home runs for the season with Bobby Witt Jr. So I'll give you a 370 on base. The power itself has been a little bit down, but and still found a way to be able to get on base. I do think that for the Royals, there's some upside there, and for the Colorado Rockies, this is a bullpen that you really don't want to have any sort of faith in whatsoever. When Seth Halverson and Tyler Kinley are some of your main closers, that's not a place where you want to be. Victor Vodnik, who was like the lone guy that saw a bunch of appearances last year with a sub 4.40 ERA on the injured list. Jimmy Urquhart has actually been solid in the bullpen, and Angel Shavili, he's been able to give you a sub 5 ERA, which for this team is actually good. Meanwhile, for the Kansas City Royals, Angel Zerpa can be a little bit hit or miss, but I do think that he's got some upside. Lucas Ursich, Carlos Aceves, an 8th and 9th inning duo that you're able to rely upon. They are dealing with Hunter Harvey, deal with a little bit of injury, and Ursich, I believe, is probably going to be dealing with a little bit of ailment as well, but you still have John Schreiber. He's been able to do a nice job of holding down the fort for the team, and I do think that this bunch should be able to do a nice job of getting to Germán Marquez, who's always been a little bit better when he's been away from home rather than at home. A career sub-4 ERA when he's on the road. At home, that does balloon up to a 5, but for Germán Marquez, he's coming off of just not being able to start the last few seasons in general. This is going to be start number 9 for him since the beginning of the 2023 campaign, and his swing and miss stuff is just way down. In his 4 starts as far this season, 6 strikeouts of 4.4 walks per 9 innings, 8.27 ERA, feeling independent of a 4.94 indicates positivity, but he is backed up by a bunch of schlubs out there in the field as well, and I do think that the Royals start to get online with this offense. Did set my total at an 8.4. I do still think that the Royals aren't going to be able to do their part with this total, along with the Colorado Rockies. Both of these teams have been very suspect at the plate, so looking at the under and the run line of Kansas City, 977, 978 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank to Los Angeles to face off against the Angels. Jack Conowitz is on the bump for the Halos. Andrew Heaney goes for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a plus 122 to a plus 131 dog. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 140 to a minus 150 is that number on Los Angeles. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And I'm going to take a shot on the over. I did set my total at an 8.7. Conowitz is just pitching to way too much contact. Throughout his career, he's only been able to give you about 4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, because he does such a good job of not getting strikeouts, he does a pretty solid job in terms of command. He's not going to give up a lot of walks, only about 3 walks per 9 innings this season, but 6.20 ERA, 5.80 fielding independent, giving up nearly 2 home runs per 9 innings. For the Pirates, this is one of the lesser lineups in all of baseball. Brian Reynolds has had a bit of a struggle to begin the season. You do have Oniel Cruz, who's been able to give you 4+ home runs. He's done a solid job finding a way on base, but who else is going to be able to provide him protection in the lineup, especially with Nick Gonzalez, Spencer Horwitz, currently both on the injured list. Joey Bart has had his moments of brilliance with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you've got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is able to do an okay job of moving the line, but Cabrian Hayes has never really materialized for the team. Andrew McCutcheon is about 500 years old, though he is still giving you north of a 320 on base. Tommy Pham, he is right now waiting for Uber Eats as I do this podcast, so that's not great. And for the Pirates, this has been about a shall we say, league average bullpen in terms of ERA. I don't have a lot of faith in these guys, though. Justin Lawrence, Caleb Ferguson are going to poop the bed at the worst time possible. Ryan Baruchi has been rough, and David Bennar, well, he was pooping the Bennar to begin the season as well, so you don't have a lot of faith in these guys, and I actually do like what I'm seeing out of the LA Angels in terms of their bullpen. They pick up Kenley Jansen in the offseason, and when you don't put him into like a primetime pressure spot, he's typically pretty solid. Ben Joyce, he's currently on the injured list, but Ryan Zephyrion, a sub-4 ERA, since getting called up to the big league level. Reed Detmers has actually been pretty solid in that bullpen as well. And then when it comes to who's going to be starting on the flip side, and Andrew Heaney, you just never know what you're going to be able to get out of him, because he's always been a good strikeout guy throughout his career, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So we've seen a little bit of a dip in that last few seasons, but he's done a better job of keeping the ball in the yard. For his career, he's always given up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Thus far this season, he has allowed just 1 home run in his 4 starts, 25 1/3 innings. That's been really the career renaissance that he has needed, but I do think that at the worst time, especially with a team in the LA Angels that he pitched for a very, very long time, there might be a little bit of familiarity there, because he still have Mike Trout in the fold, and Mike Trout, even though he's not hitting for like any sort of average whatsoever, he has been able to supply this team with, thus far this season, 8 home runs. Nolan Schunal, he has been able to do a nice job, give about a 350 on base. Got a Angels team that's not really hitting for a lot of average. I was expecting a little bit more out of Luis Rengifo this season. He's been a little bit of a flop, but got a lot of guys that are slugging the ball. They are Kyron Paris, Logan O'Hoppe, Taylor Ward, all give you 5 home runs this season. Yohan Moncada has been able to give you a little bit of something in terms of on-base percentage when he's been out there, but he's been off and on injured, and you never know what you're going to be able to get out of him. But that's up for the LA Angels. I do think that Conowit's going to give up quite a few runs in this ordeal, and I do think that this is going to be a bit of an overwhelming game. I did set my money line price at a plus 124. Heaney's actually looked solid this year, so being able to get that plus 130 run money line, I'm going to be taking a shot on the Pirates, and I'm going to be in on the over. And we're going to have things up in the 979, 980 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks play the Tampa Bay Rays. Taj Johnco, Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Rays, and you've got Eduardo Rodriguez on the bump for Arizona. Arizona does find themselves as between minus 137 to minus 148 favorites, and between plus 122 to a plus 128. That number on the Rays, and 9 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for the Diamondbacks, set them at just minus 126. Being able to get plus 127 plus, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on Taj Bradley and company. Now for Bradley, he does have the propensity to give up a little bit too much hard contact, and does have to face a bunch in the Arizona Diamondbacks that since the beginning of the 2024 campaign lead the league in runs per game. But I do think that Bradley going to be able to go out there, give you a nice performance. He does a nice job with his nasty stuff of getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings throughout his career, and throughout his career he's been a little bit unlucky. This is dating back to the start of the 2023 campaign, 4.79 ERA with a 4.37 failing independent. Again, those 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, those are a little bit costly to him, and you do have to face off against a Diamondbacks lineup that now has Corbin Carroll firing all cylinders. Again, I think that Corbin Carroll was injured in the back half of the season last year, because now he's looked like a completely different player, nearly a 400 on base, 7 home runs going into yesterday, and Eugenio Suarez is hitting for no average whatsoever. Out of his 12 hits, 6 of them have flown over the fence, so he's only hitting above 56, but he does have those home runs. But you do have plenty of guys that are moving the line, as you've had Pavin Smith give you north of a 480 on base going into yesterday. Josh Naylor, a 4 on base with 4 home runs. Lourdes Gurriel, not hitting for average, but he's got 4 home runs. So you've got a lot of guys doing a nice job finding a way on. Tim Tewa has been able to give you a little bit of something when he's been in the lineup as well. You do have a Diamondbacks bullpen that is currently without AJ Puck, so that's going to be hurting them a little bit. I still do have some faith with regards to more of these shorter guys. Justin Martinez, JP Fire Eyes, and that bullpen is very rock solid. Jalen Beeks has been more of a long guy, has been posting up a sub-1 ERA, but when it comes to Eduardo Rodriguez, just have not loved what I've seen out of him when he's been in a Arizona Diamondbacks uniform. Right now of this season, he's been able to get about 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he does have the propensity to just get a little bit wild in general. 6 walks over his first 4 starts of the season is honestly not too bad, so we'll see how that is going to be able to manifest itself moving forward. But with Eduardo Rodriguez, sometimes can be just a little bit all over the place, coming off of a very nice start in his last time out against Miami Marlins, where he was able to hold down the fort with only 1 earned run, but gave up 10 hits over the course of 5 1/3 innings, and that's been the biggest thing for Rodriguez. He's just been giving up a lot of general contact thus far this season, and I do think that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be able to get to him a little bit, as the Rays have been very upstart with regards to the lineup. You've got Jonathan Aranda giving you north of a 350 average going into yesterday with 4 home runs. Junior Caminero, he's looking like the real deal for this team. 5 home runs, doing a nice job moving the line. Brandon Lau along the Andy Diaz are up to 3 home runs. Diaz had a rough start to the season, but he's starting to pick it up. Cameron Misner, Jake Magnum hitting above the 300. I don't think that that's going to be long-lasting, and the guys like Ben Rofit, Taylor Walsh at the bottom of the lineup have been relatively rough, but you do have a Tampa Bay Rays team that in the middle, they've actually been looking very rock solid to begin the season. I do think that Bradley and Rodriguez, who both have the propensity to give up some hard contact, I think that they're going to give up a little bit of that, but I did set my total at 8.7. These are two good strikeout guys, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, we all know what this bullpen is capable of. The likes of Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, Hunter Biggie, these guys are able to do a really good job of mixing and matching in that bullpen, and I do think that that's going to be an edge in this spot, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the 9 under and at a plus 126 or higher. I do like the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to our good friend Danny Vietti, who does great work over at CBS Sports, who joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, think of an idea, whatever for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please just send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm going to manage you guys every single day throughout the season on this podcast. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.